Hey, welcome back to Duckman Cycles and VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with my 1956 Beetle, also known as Eleanor, right here. It's a completely custom car that's got a lot of different custom work on it after I revived her from having been destroyed by a hurricane. Blah, blah, blah. You know the story. But we're here today to adjust the rear suspension on it, because when I put in those little fingers that are in the back there for adjusting that rear suspension, I indexed them improperly. So I need to actually make an adjustment on it to get them right. And what I mean by improperly is that way when I lower the car down all the way, when it's on the bump stops, the adjusters still have a lot more adjustment to go to lower it more. So it's wasted. It's too far. What I need to do is I need to reverse that, so that way when I bring the suspension all the way up, when it's maxed out, it needs to be at stock height or close to it, and that's where it's not. It actually comes up a little short of that. So I have to re-index them and get them adjusted, so that way that adjustment is done properly. Now this method that we're performing here will actually work on all air-cooled Volkswagens with the torsion bar rear suspension. It doesn't matter if it's a sway bar or if it's IRS. There's slight differences between them, but we're going to try to cover that here in this video. Now again, it will apply to all Beetles, buses, Karmann Ghias, Type 3s, probably also Type 4s. I never worked in one, but I think they have a torsion bar in the rear. It also applies to Porsche 356s, 924s, 944s, and earlier 911s that had torsion bar rear suspensions. This is the quick and easy way to do it, and I can do it with just a drill and the help of my beautiful assistant Morgan. Now you guys are going to want to sit and watch this, because this is something that I have not seen documented before on YouTube. So this it's not a new method. A lot of Porsche racers have been doing it for years, but we're going to demonstrate that here in this video. So please, before you watch the video, click that like button, comment, subscribe, pluck that dingle belly next to the subscribe button in order to get updates every time I upload a new video. Don't forget, check out Duckman Cycles VW Garage up on the Facebook group page. Check out my other YouTube channel, VV the Duck VV, which is also the name of my Instagram. Check out Skeeter the Duck. She's got her own channel too. And don't forget, if you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks a lot, you guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll be back right after the intro. Well, anyway, this here is a torsion bar, and these live inside of the torsion tube on the backside of a Volkswagen Beetle. And I don't know how well you can see it from here. Yeah, you can. It's this long tube that runs right across the rear of the chassis here. There's two of these in there, one for each side. Then attached to the end of them is what's called a spring plate. Now, it doesn't matter if you have a Porsche 944, 924, some of the 911s, the air-cooled 911s, I think the last 911 air-cooled one, I forget what it is, I'll put it up here on the screen, but that one did not have a torsion bar rear suspension. We couldn't do that on there. 356s, any Beetle, Bug, Bus, Karmann Ghia thing, it doesn't matter if it's swing axle or IRS, they all have a spring plate at the end of the torsion bar. Now, spring plates aren't all constructed equally. You see, this one has a long tube on it. Some of them have a shorter tube. Some of them had no tube at all. But the torsion bar actually goes into here like this. Your rear suspension is all attached to this, and this goes up and down. So this torsion bar is actually a spring, and it works by twisting rather than compressing. And it doesn't twist much, and we're talking, you know, only a few degrees. And that's what gives you your suspension play, because of course the mechanical advantage way out here is a lot of motion, whereas in the bar, it's just a little tiny bit. Well, anyway, that's how that goes together. So in order to change the indexing on the torsion bar, typically what you do is you'd remove the spring plate from the end of it, turn it, and put it back on in a different position. You could also pull out the torsion bar completely and re-index it on the inside. And I'll put up here on the screen as to how much of an adjustment you'd get from each one of these splines that are on the end here. And there's a different number of splines on either end. You notice they're different sizes. You can't put them in backwards. And if you turn one way and you turn one the other way, you get a very minute adjustment. Whereas if you turn one way and you leave the other one alone, you get a major adjustment. So we're going to cover a little bit of that in this video and show you how to do this the easy way. Okay, now if you've been watching my video series, you'll remember that almost nothing here on my rear suspension is original 1956 Volkswagen. It's actually been upgraded to a much later IRS from a Porsche 944. All the geometry on this stuff is the same as an IRS Beetle. The difference is a lot of it is aluminum alloy, and it actually allowed me to put the wider suspension that I needed on here, as well as the fancy disc brakes to allow that car to get upgraded to be a better performing and handling car. Did I have to do it? No, I guess I really didn't, but I did it more for aesthetics than anything else. But the principles here for re-indexing the torsion bar is pretty much the same thing. What you'd have to do is you got to remove that spring plate that I talked about, which is this guy here, pull it off that torsion bar, turn it, and put it back on. But in order to get it off, you have to remove the 3 bolts from here. You have to remove the sway bar if you have one. You have to remove the rear shock. That's got to come out. You probably should remove the axle. The spring plate, 4 bolts on here, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. And also it's easier if you remove the pivot bolt or at least loosen it. Then you have to figure out what you're doing with the brake lines. E-brake cable is usually a little bit too short, and you're going to find yourself a little bit frustrated with some of these things. So usually it's easier just to remove as much of it as you can. In this case, if I were going to do it, I'd probably also remove the CAFR bar that's on here, or at least some of the legs to it, just to get some stuff out of the way to make it easier to work with. Now that's a lot of parts. That is a whole lot of parts to remove, and it's a lot of work. It's really an easy task. It's just a lot of turning bolts and turning wrenches and all this other stuff. So I got another way to do it. On all those Beetles, buses, Gias, Porsches, and everything else that has torsion bar rear suspension, the principle is going to be more or less the same. So we're going to get into it here. We're going to start right there on the spring plate. So let me show you what we got. Alright, for some reason the video wasn't recording, so we're going to do this one over again, but you missed something that was rather important. This is a spring plate from an IRS Beetle. You notice that tube has a cap on the end of it. The 9441 is just the same, also had a cap on the end of it, and this is the cap that came out of it. Now you notice there's a hole in the middle of it, and the reason why is because I hammered a screwdriver into it and I just pried it out. Got it removed completely. I'm sure there are less barbaric ways to do it, and they're really not welded in there. You're just kind of press fit into place, and then they crimp the edges of it a little bit. So they pop out real easy. I mean, really easy. There's not much holding them in at all, which kind of surprises me that these torsion bars even stay in their locations at all, you know, considering the facts that cap is really BS. In fact, the one over on that side, I actually knocked it off accidentally when I was assembling the rear suspension. So those caps actually do come out quite easily, and I'm sure the ones on the IRS Beetle are no different. Now, if you have a swing axle Beetle, you may not have a tube like this. This cover won't even have a hole in it all for the tube to come through. So you will have to remove these 4 bolts and pull this plate off. But I mean, that's about the extent of your disassembly. Now, the end of a torsion bar typically has a dimple in the middle of it. These torsion bars are solid. Some of them are actually hollow. Now, the stock ones are usually solid. In fact, I think they're all solid. Aftermarket ones sometimes are hollow. And all the stress on these bars actually rides along the outside of them. The core is actually just really to hold it together. That's typically how the physics work with these things. So if you have a mark or a ding mark in it or rust on your torsion bars, this one actually looks pretty good. But if you find a spot on them, they have a tendency to shatter, even if it's just a scratch. Because all that force rides along the outside of them, you'll break them. Now, why I'm telling you that is because what we are doing to this is we're actually going to drill through here, or I should say drill into here, about 1/2 inch or so, and then we're going to thread it. And it might sound a little weird to you, and I figured I would prepare you for that, because there's going to be somebody out there that's going to say, oh, you're going to ruin the torsion bar if you do that. It's going to break. You can't modify those things. Well, actually, right here at the end, there's not a whole lot of stress. The stress is from here through. You know, the parts that actually twist. This part is stationary. This part is not going to break. So we're just going to jump in here a little bit and drill in about 1/2 inch. Now, these torsion bars are harder than hell. They are spring steel, and they're just super, super hardened. So what you're going to want is you're going to want an assortment of drill bits that are going to drill into that appropriately. You just got to get some good ones. You buy the cheap crap from Harbor Freight, they're just not going to do it. So get yourself a good bunch of drills. I actually use these for drilling like through stainless steel and stuff, things that work harden, and these drill bits have lasted me a number of years and been doing a pretty good job. You're also going to want a tap whenever you get up to that. Now, the size you choose is up to you. I don't remember what the thread pitch is on this, and the label of it, unfortunately, is not legible anymore. But you're going to want a tap, so whatever size you move up to, make sure you get a tap for it. Usually one of those 13mm fender bolts is good enough to do the job. Just make sure you get it in about 1/2 inch. That's really what's critical. I really didn't think you guys need to see me drill a hole. And I'm going to let you watch, and we're going to try to time-lapse it. For what it's worth, I guess it makes the video a little more interesting. Start out with your smallest bit. A little bit of lube in there. This is actually just chain lube, but I just want to have something in there. That's it. Let's start drilling. All right. I think we're good. Now we get to put our tap in there. And you see it's already got some lube on it because I already did the other side once. I actually recorded that video yesterday and it turned out to be quite a failure. Just everything didn't record right. I had audio problems, I had bad angles that you couldn't really see things well. I kept crashing into the camera. So this time around, we're going to do it this way. Get your tap started in there, get your tap handle, and I think you know the drill if you've ever tapped for threads before. That's all there is to it. Now this tire and wheel is actually a little bit big. I probably should have taken it off or removed it, but I'm not going to. If I have to only do about 180 degrees on it at a time, that's just the way we're going to do it. Alright, I think we about nailed it. Let's back this sucker back out. There we go. That sure beat. Unwinding it with the drill sure beat working this thing on its way back out. Anyway, we're ready for a bolt. I had a bolt over here a minute ago. I don't know where it went. We're going to find it. We'll be back in just a second. Now this is just an ugly ass carriage bolt that I've got here. I don't even care if I mess the threads up on it a little bit, because that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to beat it up anyway. But the end of it is good. Let's see if that threads in. And it does. Good. You're going to want to put as many turns on it as you can. Might even just straighten it out a little bit right where it sits here. Alright, threads look good. I think we're going to go with what we did here. Go ahead and take it back out. And we're going to call Morgan over to come help us. Well, I almost forgot. We actually have to jack up this wheel. With the wheel on the ground, there's too much tension on that torsion bar, and we're not going to be able to get it to release. So let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air, put a jack stand under it. One thing's for certain, this thing is a lot easier to work on without a body on it. Alright, torsion bars are completely unloaded now. Let's go ahead and call over our beautiful helper, Morgan, with the knockers. Alright, one of the things I almost forgot, I keep moving a little too fast for myself, is you're going to want to put a mark on things here so you know where your markings are on your torsion bar when you pull it out. So that way, you have two lines here now, and when they're in line, it's in the same location as where we started. Now I'm going to try not to adjust it here, I'm going to adjust it on the inside. Now the adjustments I'm going to be making on the inside is going to be the only thing that's going to be differing from stock, because I do have them little fingers in there that are adjustable. Alright, we're going to slide on this little attachment here. We're going to thread this right on in. Make sure you get it in as far as you can. You don't want to be pulling the threads out of it. Okay, and here comes Morgan. And I gotta admit that this woman has done more for me than any other woman that I've ever been in a relationship with. She's a good girl, that's all I gotta say. Alright, thread her right into here. And you guys are gonna love this. Pull back on that slide hammer. Here's your torsion bar. Removed. How about that? Not something you see every day. Alright. Let's remove Morgan. Put her aside. Alright, we'll pull this carriage bolt out of here, which I kind of expected to be a disposal anyway. And you pull your torsion bar out. And this gives you an opportunity to inspect it to see if you have any damage on here. Any chip marks, rust, blah blah blah. Well, I installed this previously and I know it's good. There's some sticky crap on it, but there's no dents or marks or chips in the paint. And it's not even a paint, it's like a plastic coating on this bar. Runs the full length of it. It's really heavy, I mean you can feel it. And any place that there is actually marking, it's only in the plastic, it doesn't go through. And that's the reason why they coat them that way. Well, this is a good opportunity to re-grease your splines. That's already been done by me previously when I had this part over the summer, so I don't think I need to hit that again. But what you would do at this point, put your torsion bar back in, keeping those two lines on the outside in sync, and taking the jack that I've got over here and putting it up underneath that wheel, I can actually raise or lower the spring plate into the position that I'm looking for. Keeping that mark in line, I can then re-index the inside to the next position. And I can raise it or lower it just by one notch at a time by doing so. Really easy one-man operation. Up inside of here, where typically your shift coupler lives, you got these two fingers in here that are adjustable. And this is something that I added. This is not stock. These guys, you see the splines in them. This is where the torsion bar is going to engage in the center. Need to be put into position properly first off. There it is. So what I need to do is I need to bring this little finger up to the same position and push the torsion bar in so that way it locks into there, leaving the wheel all the way in the down position, because that's exactly the way I set up the one over here. So when everything's put together, those two fingers should be damn near equal in adjustment. All right, let's go ahead and push that torsion bar back into place. This is a little tricky to get in here and get this adjusted, but the good thing is the inside end of the torsion bar will actually engage before the outer will. The first thing we want to do is get our lines lined up. And here they're lined up now, those two marks that we made. I'm going to lift up on that finger in here until I feel it start to engage. Starting to engage now. Checking my lines, and currently I'm out of position. So I'm going to need to pull it back out and slide it over one more spline. You know, let me wide angle this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I'm actually working both ends of the torsion bar at the same time. Now once again, I'm turning this end over here while I'm lifting up on this finger here, trying to get them to engage. Now this would not apply to stock, because stock would not have such an adjustment inside the pan. This is something I added. We're going to get to that in the future as to why it's there, but it's to make adjustments really easy from the underside of the car. Ooh, I'm way off now. Wasn't watching what I was doing. Wiggle up and down and turn back and forth. And we're way out again. Yeah, I'm off by one spline. Alright, just about got it. Rubber mallet it in there. Okay. The two now are really, really close to where they should be. It was about 2 splines adjusted on the inside. And now when I adjust the bolt on the bottom, I should be able to bring those 2 fingers to be level. And we should have a level suspension when we lower it back down. Okay, if you look up inside of here, you can see our fingers are now even. Even if they're off by a little bit, I can make some final adjustments from the screws that are up underneath the chassis and bring those into position. If we're going to be off by some, it won't be much at all. I mean, we're talking very, very slight. But at this point, we can go ahead and drop that chassis back down on the ground, pull that jack out and jack stand out, and everything should be even from left to right. And it should be where I need it to be. Now, why this was really, really important is because these fingers are up so high, there was no way for me to get a shift coupler in here. And I laughed when I made the adjustments because I knew exactly what was wrong. So anyway, now I can do that. Shifter shaft will reach, everything should be good, everything should be adjustable. And when I loosen those screws, those fingers go down and away from the shifter. Right now they're at maximum ride height. And when they go down, the vehicle of course will lower. Jack it up, jack it down, jack it on, jack it off. Okay. Alright. Get up on here and make it settle. And I think we nailed it. Alright, ride looks good and even on both sides. It'll need to settle a little bit, so I'll need to roll it forwards and back some, just to be sure that it's right. But after jumping up and down on it, it looks pretty damn even. So I think I nailed it. So, the only last thing that needs to be done, and this is the only part I really haven't thought too well about yet, is over here on the end of that spring plate. Right there in that cap. And there's no concern about the torsion bar slipping out, because they don't. And I assure you that stupid cap that's on the end here is not enough to hold it in. I mean, not enough. Like I said, I knocked the cap off on the other side just by accident, because the torsion bar wasn't in all the way when I pushed the spring plate in, and it just popped out. So those do not hold it in there, because the caps are just sheet metal, just pressed in there. But you don't want the end of it rusting. You don't want shit getting into it. So you're going to want to grease it up real good, and you're going to want to grease up that end over there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a rubber cap that slides over that out of some Plasti Dip. You know, multiple coats of that stuff that you actually use for coating wrench handles would work real nicely on there. So I'm going to grease it up, fill it up, and then put a little rubber cap over the end of it, and be done. So I think that's going to nail this video. So what'd you guys think of that one? You know, I'm looking for comments. Did I not save myself just a ton of time not having to disassemble all this crap? I was not looking forward to that, and that's the reason why I've held off doing this since last summer. And then I figured, you know, let me try the Porsche racing method and see how easy it is, and it turned out it's actually very easy. Very, very easy. Well, now I gotta say that really wasn't all that hard, now was it? Simply move over and to the other side and just do exactly the same thing. As I mentioned before, I already did the other side. That was yesterday's video, but unfortunately I just screwed that video up terribly. I'm not even going to get into that, but that's the reason why I re-recorded this one today. Thankfully I had another side to demonstrate. What'd you guys think of that? I mean, that's not something that I've ever seen on YouTube before, and not something that I've ever even found on the internet before, except for in discussion. I've never seen anybody do it. So I wanted to be the first one with that video on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate it. Please give me that licky-likey. Please comment, subscribe. Please go over to duckshit.net and join. You know, be a member. I've got a bunch of new members up there and 2 premier members at this point. I'm just besides myself. And I thank you guys for every bit of donation. It's actually motivated me to spend another, and I still can't believe I did this, I spent another $2,000 in video equipment yesterday to try to make the videos better for you. Not for me, that's actually for you. So I hope you guys do enjoy what I'm doing here. If you have any questions, I'm going to try to answer them on the next Q&A video, which should be up tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, and we've got a big Volkswagen cruise going on. Probably going to be about a dozen of us, maybe 2 dozen of us. We're going to travel up into Alabama, about 50 miles from home. So there will be a video on that. I'm going to try to put the GoPro up on the roof of the Fastback. So we'll get a little video of that, and of course I'll have my camcorder with me too to get all the different angles and the commentary. So thanks you guys for watching. Once again, really do appreciate it. Don't forget, Duckman Cycles VW Garage up on the Facebook group page, VV the Duck VV, where my Q&A typically go. It's also the same name as the Instagram I've got. Check out Ski to the Duck on her channel, and if you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back later. Alright, figured I should give you a little demonstration. This is your shift coupler back here, and you see how it has free range of motion now, that it's not hitting those fingers anymore, even when the suspension is at maximum height. And that was important, because they were actually quite in the way before. But the adjustment has now been done properly. So we're good in that department. Far out.